Hey everyone, welcome to another deck tech. Today we're going to be looking at Temur Hatching Delver. I have a bit of a different format this time with the deck techs. I'm hoping it's a bit more organized as opposed to going through all the creatures and all the instants and all the sorceries and blah blah blah. I'm going to be breaking the deck down into specific segments. So we're going to be looking at the core first, and then we're going to be looking at the permission package, removal, so on and so forth, and I'm hoping that that's a bit better. We won't be doing sideboards anymore. I'll have separate videos on sideboards, because, the sideboards tend to be the same from one deck to another if it's the same colors, so I don't see the need to be repeating myself there. So we'll have, devoted videos for sideboards. So let's get started with the core. So Temur Hatching Delver is interesting. It's not a new idea. It's something that used to be a thing in the past, kind of died out and petered away, and I want to resurrect it. I want to bring it out in Temur first and foremost, because of course I do, and I want to see what I can do with it. So I've put a list together, taking ideas here and there from past lists and then just kind of morphing it into something that will work in today's meta. And I want us to look at the 3 core cards, starting with Hatching Plans, which is the main, well, it's the namesake of the deck, right? Well, at least part of it. So it's an enchantment, and when it comes down onto the battlefield, it does nothing. It does nothing, and you need to get it out of the off the battlefield into your graveyard for it to start paying dividends for you. So how do you do that? I mean, we're drawing 3 cards, right? So that's significant. So how do we do that? Well, we have Crack the Earth, and we have Perilous Research. So let's start with Crack the Earth. Crack the Earth, pretty straightforward. 1 red mana, each player sacrifices a permanent. Now, you would think that Crack the Earth only comes in handy with Hatching Plans, to destroy Hatching Plans and draw 3 cards. But that's not the only time I foresee using Crack the Earth. Now, keep in mind, we also run Young Pyromancer in this deck, and we do run Joel Royale as well. Both those creatures generate tokens, and we can, early game, use Crack the Earth in a somewhat offensive way, cast it, sacrifice a token because we don't care, and our opponent is forced to sacrifice a permanent on their end as well, and that is not so straightforward for most decks. They're going to be most likely targeting a land, not, because they don't want to target another permanent they control, probably targeting their lands, and that's a problem because it's going to set them back a turn. For us, it's not that bad because we're only getting rid of a token. In their case, that's a bit of an issue. So yeah, I mean, keep that in mind. I'm going to be keeping that in mind when I'm playing Hatching Delver in actual matches. But yeah, Crack the Earth has more than one play, so that's pretty important. And up next is Perilous Research. So Perilous Research also technically has more than one way to play it. So yes, you can use it, you can cast it and destroy Hatching Plans and draw 5 cards in 1 turn, which is insane, by the way. And I've, it's been done, and it's kind of crazy. But there are other times where you don't need Hatching Plans to be able to cast Perilous Research for profit. So you can cast Perilous Research and sacrifice a token. That's a thing. You can cast Perilous Research as well. It's instant speed, so you can cast it to target a creature that's about to be removed, or a creature that's about to die in combat. And that way you can get something out of it without having to wait for Hatching Plans to come down, or to have a token you can sacrifice to cast it. So there's a few ways you can play Hatching Plans as well, so just keep that in mind. You're not always trying to target Hatching Plans because there's only 4 Hatching Plans in the deck. So you're not always going to have Hatching Plans on the battlefield when you have Perilous Research or Crack the Earth. Keep that in mind. This is the core of the deck. Let's see how it plays out in the matches once I start posting them. There'll be some matches posted today, so stay tuned. Let's move on to the threats. So what threats am I playing in this first iteration of the deck? So, I mean, it's Temur Hatching Delver. I believe that this deck, at the end of the day, is more or less a tempo deck, like many other Delver decks, or at least Temur Delver decks in Modern. So I have Delver in there. It's a tempo creature. I think it works really well. We only really run around 25 instants and sorceries, which is, you know, about 3 to 4 short of what about 3 short of what I like to play. Usually I like to aim for 27, 28, maybe 29 instants and sorceries. We're running 25, it's fine, it's not the end of the world, it's mostly because of hatching plans, it takes space. But Delver still has a relatively good flip rate, so that's our main creature. Our next 2 creatures generate tokens, so we have Young Pyromancer, of course. Don't need much of an introduction for Young Pyromancer. Every instant and sorcery that you cast will generate a token, and yes, the token comes onto the battlefield before your spell resolves. So if you're casting Crack the Earth, you can cast Crack the Earth, token comes onto the battlefield, you can sacrifice the token. Same thing for Perilous Research, so just keep that in mind. For Jolrael, you're only really getting 1 2/2 creature every turn, assuming you're drawing you know, at least 2 cards that turn, your draw step and a card from Serum Visions or something else, Perilous Research or hatching plans. But, you know, the 2/2 tokens do come in handy. Her 6 mana ability is kind of like a finisher. I don't know if you're going to be using that too much in this deck, but it's something to keep in mind. Token generation is really good here because, again, we are drawing a lot of cards in this deck. That is the whole point. That is the main mechanic of the hatching version of Temur Delver, at least in this case. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to get that 2/2 token generating trigger pretty often, assuming Jolrael survives. In my experience, Young Pyromancer, Jolrael, even the next card, Dreadhorde Arcanist, those are all Lightning Bolt. You know, they're lightning rods for removal, so keep that in mind. That's why we have a permission package, which I'll get into soon. So, you know, that leads us to Dreadhorde Arcanist, which is it's kind of funny in this deck because, I mean, there's no way to really pump it other than Jolrael's ability. And, I mean, if we're doing that, then we're probably winning the game anyway, and it's not really relevant. So it's almost always going to be attacking as a 1/3, and you're really going to only be able to target Serum Visions. But you also have Lightning Bolt, you also have Crack the Earth, which is kind of funny because you kind of just keep casting Crack the Earth, or at least, you know, once from the graveyard for every Crack the Earth that you have, and just kind of piss off your opponent. So it's kind of, I mean, you do get the Young Pyromancer trigger off of those casts. So yeah, I mean, Dreadhorde Arcanist is pretty brutal here. Being able to like double bolt or even triple bolt on a turn as well is kind of brutal because of its ability. You can bolt main phase, attack in, target the lightning bolt, bolt again. You might even have a lightning bolt in your hand. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to deal an insane amount of damage with Dreadhorde Arcanist on the battlefield. So those are the threats of the deck, at least the initial threats that I'm starting out with. We'll see in the deck recap in a couple of weeks where I end up. Obviously, I'm going to be making changes. I expect to be making changes. Up until now, I've just done a ton of go fishing and just kind of playing, you know, solitaire, essentially. And yeah, I'm going to be delving into actual matches soon, so for sure the deck is going to evolve. Let's move on to cantrips. So we have 2 other drawing spells in the deck, card drawing spells. Of One Mind is actually pretty awesome. Its cost reduction ability is relevant quite often because of Young Pyromancer alone allows you to, you know, generate elemental tokens, and then boom, you already have the conditions met for One Mind. But you also have Young Pyromancer, you have Jolrael, you have Delver of Secrets, which are all humans, and then you have Dreadhorde Arcanist and the tokens that are generated from Young Pyromancer and Jolrael, which are non-human. So yeah, it's quite often that you get the cost reduction condition met, and then you're paying 1 blue mana to draw 2 cards. Pretty awesome. And then you have Serum Visions. Don't have to say much about Serum Visions. I think you know what Serum Visions does. It's the best cantrip we're going to get in Modern for a while. So definitely running 4 of those. Moving on to removal. We only run 4 removal cards, and that is Lightning Bolt. I mean, we're not counting Crack the Earth, right? Because it's not technically removal. Same thing for Perilous Research, so, you know, those aren't not fair to include in this category. So we're running Lightning Bolt. That is pretty light, but you can always make up for removal in the sideboard, and if you're playing against a deck that, you know, necessitates more removal, you can bring in removal from the side. Moving on to permission, so I'm running 3 Force of Negation starting off and 3 Remand. Really not sure about Remand. I have a feeling I'm going to be getting rid of Remand pretty quickly as I start playing, but I'm going to give it a shot. Again, it's the draw card ability that's really, you know, making me try Remand first before I try another counterspell. So that's why I'm running 3 of those. I'm running 3 Force of Negations because I want to be able to tap out and still protect my creatures on my opponent's turn. So Force of Negation is really, really relevant here. I think it's important, and yeah, keep that in mind. So believe it or not, those are all the cards other than the lands, which we'll get to now. So the lands, pretty standard. Again, if you've seen previous deck techs, if you've seen me play other Temur decks, these lands are going to be pretty, you know, it's going to look pretty familiar to you. Yeah, I'll go through it really quick, but I don't want to waste too much of your time here. Wooded Foothills, Scalding Tarn, Misty Rainforest, those are your fetches, run them. You're also running, you know, all the relevant shock lands, so Stomping Grounds, Steam Vents, Breeding Pool, and I'm running Spire Bluff Canal as well to kind of round out the dual lands. And running some basics, because you need basics if you want to be Blood Moon proof, and if you want to have something to get if you get Field of Ruined or Path to Exiled or whatever. So that is the mana base. Let's, you know, I mean, I'm looking forward to playing this deck. Let's see what happens. Stay tuned to the matches I'll be posting up today and next week as well. And stay tuned for the deck recap, where I go over the matches that I played, how I think this deck fares against the current meta, what I changed to make it actually work better from this initial iteration. So yeah, stay tuned for all of that. That's all coming up. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy my content in general, please subscribe, hit the notification bell. That helps me, it helps everybody. And thanks, and have a good one.